Hi, I'm Nicole Roberts-Jones, and welcome to The Fierce Files. Now, what I know for sure is that one of life's greatest gifts will meet you when you go after your more. And so here is why I share with you thought-provoking insight and behind-the-curtain conversations with women who have reached the pinnacle of success because they went after their more. Now, I really want you to get this. One idea from these episodes can make a remarkable difference, not just in your career, but in your life. And I want to make sure you join the conversation in our Facebook group. So go to findyourfiercemovement.com. Now grab your pen and get ready for today's session of The Fierce Files. Hello, Nicole Roberts-Jones here, and welcome to this episode of The Fierce Files. So for this episode, I wanted to take the time to dig deeper and have a thought-provoking conversation with you about the Matthew Effect, what it is, how it pertains to you, how it speaks to your ability to level up and do more and to expand your territory. So the Matthew Effect is a social phenomenon that is often linked to this idea that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, right? So in essence, this refers to a common concept that those who already have are often placed in situations where they gain more, and those that don't typically have, right, they struggle to achieve more. Now, I actually learned about this concept reading the book Outliers, The Story of Success, which was written by best-selling author Malcolm Gladwell. Now, the first chapter of this book is actually called The Matthew Effect. So in this book, or in this chapter, Malcolm Gladwell goes beyond the surface of this concept, the Matthew Effect, and it really got me thinking. See, I believe that we all have the capacity for more, and living in that more is contingent on what we do with what we have. So to continue a conversation that I started with you as our 3-part series in episodes 2 through 4 of this podcast, and really in those episodes, I talked to you about why you must go after your more. Now, by the way, if you haven't listened to those episodes, let me encourage you to go back and take a listen, because I'm not going to repeat that insight here for this episode. Now, what I wanted to do here is dig even deeper as to what happens when you go after your more and what happens, honestly, when you don't. So let's start with really looking at the concept behind the Matthew Effect by looking at where this concept came from, which is a Bible verse. And that Bible verse is Matthew 25:29, which says, "For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away." So let me read it one more time. So again, this is Matthew 25:29, and it says, "For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away." Now, just reading that, I can see how those that read that Bible verse may think it's saying that the rich get richer and the poor get poor, right? Now, I got to tell you, in my desire to really understand this Matthew Effect, I realized that this Bible verse is actually one part of a larger story. It's actually taken from one of Jesus's most significant parables in the Bible regarding work. Now, if you want to read the whole passage, go and read it. It's Matthew 25:14 through 30. I'm not going to read that whole passage right now, but go and read the whole passage, right? And this story in the Bible is what is called the parable of the talents. And now, while I'm not a Bible scholar, but I am someone that believes that the Bible is our manual for living. And so one of the things that I love to do is to read Bible stories and then dig deeper to understand its meaning and application, right? Plus, in my desire to really understand the Matthew Effect, I really began to realize, and really I believe, that we all have the same propensity to live abundantly. Right? It's not like God said, okay, you're going to have abundance and you're not. I think he gives us all the same opportunity. So it got me to thinking and led me really to start looking at this concept fully to understand it. All right. So let me really give you a quick version of the whole story. Again, you can read the whole story later, but I want you to understand it so you can see how this applies to us and how we each must activate our Matthew Effect in our lives and careers if we really want to live into all that's possible. So again, this whole story is in the Bible and it's called the parable of the talents. And here is the quick version of the parable. Okay. So a rich man who he delegates the management of his wealth to his servants. Now it says servants, but I don't like the word servants. It just doesn't feel good to me. So as I tell you the story, I'm going to replace servant with employee. Okay. Now, so this wealthy man in the story, he has a large amount of money. They call it talents, but it's a large amount of money. And he gives 5 talents to the first employee. He gives 2 talents to his second employee, and he gives 1 talent to the third. So 2 of the 3 employees take their talents and invest them, and they earn 100% returns, right? Sounds like the stock market, right? So again, 2 employees take their talents, their money that their boss gave them, right? This wealthy man, and they earned 100% returns. But the third employee, what he does is hides the money. He hides it in the ground and it earns nothing. So what happens is when the rich man returns, he rewards the 2 who made more from what they already had, but he severely punishes the employee who did nothing with what was given to him. Now, when I read this story, when I read it, I see the meaning much deeper than just money. After all, the parable is called the parable of the talents. So if I apply this to the fact that when we are born, I believe that God gives each of us gifts and talents. And my question to you right out of the gate is, what are you doing with it? What are you doing with the gifts and talents God has given you? So I'm going to give you 5 insights from this story that if you really take time and really look at each of these, it's going to speak to your ability to create the Matthew effect in your own life, right? And that Matthew effect does speak to this whole thing of why you must go after your more. So the first lesson I got is success happens when you take action. So number 1, success happens when you take action. So I want you to think of it like seed time and harvest. So I'm not a planter, but here's what I do know. So when a farmer takes a seed and plants it in the ground, that's not it. It's not like you plant the seed and ta-da, you're done. No. See, that farmer has to come day after day and water that seed that's down in the ground that you cannot see. And then one day, only if he or she keeps watering it and watering, if he stays in the work, only after staying in the work and watering it and watering it and watering it and watering it, I call that see nothing days. Only once, if he stays in the work, does he begin to see a plant grow out of that ground. All right. And as it says in Proverbs 10:4, he who has a slack hand becomes poor, but the hand of the diligent makes rich, right? So success happens when you take action. See, there's no such thing as an overnight success. Success only happens when you stay in the work. There's also a Bible verse that says faith without works is dead. So to move into your more, it's about putting in the work repeatedly. You don't just get to one level and stop and you're done. No, that would be what I would say is frivolous, lazy, trifling. Yep, I called you trifling, right? And I'm saying that no matter how successful you are, because if you're not putting in the work, then yes, let me say this to you, successful woman, you're being trifling. Yep. So you're what you're doing is you're looking at your gifts as unimportant, insignificant. And so this really moves us into our second lesson that I learned here reading the parable of the talents, which is number 2, we are to live out our assignment, or you are to live out your assignment, right? That's number 2. See, God has given each one of us gifts and talents. Those gifts and talents speak to the way you are wired, how you are naturally good at something, and why you have the propensity to do the work that you do. Now, what I believe is that God bestows those gifts and talents on you to live on assignment. He gives those gifts and talents to you at birth. So yes, you too are called, and no, a calling is not reserved for ministers or preachers. They're not the only ones that are called. We all come to this earth on assignment. In other words, God expects each one of us, you and me, to use our gifts and talents on earth to make a difference and impact while we are here. And guess what? That is your life assignment. And no matter what you do, if you're a coach, if you're a lawyer, an accountant, a trainer, an image consultant, should I go on or do you get my point? I'm talking to all of you. Now, if you listen to some of the stories in previous episodes of the Fierce Files, it's not an accident that despite being offered partner in her law firm, that Sophia A. Nelson chose to become a journalist. You heard her say this. She had a passion for writing all along. See, it's not an accident that despite working in an industry that at the time didn't honor your faith, that Dr. Harley Carter carved a path to make a platform for faith in Hollywood. See, it's not an accident that despite being successful on Wall Street, that Dee Marshall asked herself the day after 9/11, she asked herself, if I died yesterday, would I have any regrets? See, it's not an accident that despite natural hair not being popular in the 90s, Felicia Leatherwood followed her heart's desire for women to love who they naturally are. And now look at where her career is. Look at where all their careers are. See, each of these women, just like you, had gifts and talents in them at birth. And see, what they did was say yes to activate them. See, they did the work to pivot from where they were into where they knew they were meant to be, and they stepped fully into their calling, their assignment. So what does that look like for you? Now, if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, then you know in episode number 3 of the Fierce Files, which was part 2 in that special series on why you must go after your more. See, in episode 3, I share with you in depth on you are the answer. So the reason God gave you talents is not only for you, but for every person that needs you. See, when you have this rumble in your belly, it's because God put gifts and talents in you to live on assignment. And yet it's also because there's more for you to do for those that need you. So this is not merely about your resume or your bio. That is over, is done, is complete. My question to you is, what is that rumble in your belly calling you to do or be that is an extension or recalibration of who you are, right? How is it an extension or recalibration of how you're using your gifts and talents to the fullest? See, that more that's rumbling inside of you is so that you can serve more people and do more good in the world, which then leads us to the third point I got in this story, which is start with what you have. See, what I believe this story is talking about in Matthew chapter 25 is telling us that it's not acceptable merely to ignore the gifts inside of you. It's not acceptable to live in good enough, to not do more and be more. See, that more inside of you is all about you not sitting in complacency. It's not about getting to one level of success and staying there. It's about activating your brilliance to the next, to the next, to the next. And that's what 2 of those 3 employees did in the parable of the talents. See, the return God expects of each of us from the gifts he placed in you and me, it's in alignment with the work he expects you to complete on this earth. So just as a wealthy man in the story expected his employees to do more than passively preserve what he had given to them, right? God expects the same of you and me. He expects you to generate a return by living in full activation of the talents he put inside of you. And see, the problem with most successful women is the fact that you're already successful. And the rumble in your belly is telling you to step outside your comfort zone to start something new. And for many of you, it may mean starting over in a new career. And I know it's scary. And you're probably thinking to yourself, I have to leave all of this. I got to leave my 6-figure income. I've got to leave my status, my title. I could go on. But let me tell you, you don't have to leave it. You can actually start this thing alongside your 9-to-5. But what you must do is venture out into this new thing. You have to take the seed of greatness inside of you that you have not fully tapped into and grow it. See, the employee in the story was not condemned for failing to reach the 5-talent goal. He was condemned because he did nothing with what he was given. And so I hope you get that the severe consequences to being unproductive, the person that does not use what they have, is far beyond anything triggered by mere business mediocrity. It's about activating your gifts and talents to the fullest and not to waste them. So again, I say, you may already be successful, but where you are is not finished. See, if you were done, dare I say to you, you would no longer be here. We would be sitting at your funeral right now. So I'm here as your sister friend to call you out, to tell you to stop relying on yesterday's success. That is done. It's complete. My question is, what's next for you? What is that thing that scares you? But something in the lining of your belly tells you that there is more for you to do. And guess what? It's time to go after your more, which moves us to number 4. The 4th point I got in this story is you have to invest in what you already have. So the two employees that were rewarded in the story took what they were given and invested it. Now, if you've been around me, you already know one of my favorite quotes, and I say it a lot, is the tools you use on this level are not sufficient for your next. So you have to invest in order to grow what you have, right? You've got to invest. You got to do what Sierra's song says, level up. Not to stay where you are. It's to step up to what's next. Now, to take this even further, in the second chapter in the same book, Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell, he outlines what he calls the 10,000 hour rule. See, what Malcolm Gladwell outlines is how people such as Microsoft founder Bill Gates and Apple CEO Steve Jobs, each of them spent thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours in computer labs. They spent time tucked away from everyone else, writing line after line after line of computer code, just trying to crack this whole computer thing, right? And because they took the time and focused energy to grow their gift and talent, what they did was invest in themselves. And obviously it paid off, or we wouldn't be on a computer right now, right? Another example is Malcolm Gladwell uses, he talks about the Beatles, whose overnight success came after playing and probably really badly at first, right? Hundreds and thousands of sets at bars and nightclubs in Germany. They did that for year upon year upon year before anyone in England had any idea of who they were. See, Malcolm Gladwell's point is that it's not just Bill Gates or Steve Jobs' intelligence or the Beatles' talent that put them over the top, but that 10,000 hours spent investing and growing their gifts. See, the point I want you to get is the greatest value of our lives comes from what we do with our talent and the time we spend to grow it and to use it. Now, I said this earlier, and let me say it again. There is no such thing as overnight success. Only people whose preparation meets God-given opportunity, God-given talent. See, there will be amazing opportunities that will come to you, but will you be ready for them? Have you spent the thousands of hours when no one else was looking to grow that gift in you? Are you using your time today to invest in growing that gift inside of you? Or are you just living in enough? Are you being complacent with your gift? Now, to give you another example of someone that spent the 10,000 hour rule is Miss Beyonce. So what many people don't think about is that at 9 years old, this little girl, every day after school, every single day during the summer, spent time investing in her gift. Her father quit his job at IBM to manage her, investing in her gift. Hours upon hours upon hours. And 10 years later, they got their first record deal. And then they got fired from that record deal. I can go on and on, but the point I'm making is this. She put in the time to grow and invest. It's one thing for her to be talented. It's another thing to invest in her gift. See, every day, whether you're a corporate executive, an entrepreneur, a stay-home mom, or the president of a Fortune 500 company, so you have opportunities to excel at what you're doing, to make an investment, to get better at something. You can work and give your all to improve yourself, or you can sit in ordinary, which leads us to number 5. The fifth thing I got from reading this story is you will be held accountable. You will. So the employee that did nothing with what was given to him in the parable didn't just waste his boss's money. He wasted opportunity. And in the same way, we are responsible for what we do with the gifts and talents that God has bestowed on us. Yes, you will be held responsible. You know, I often imagine, what will my last day look like? What will it look like when I die and get to what some call the pearly gates, right? When I get to meet God face to face. I often wonder, will he say to me, "Good job, Nicole. You did the work I gave you to do." I wonder, will he say to me, "I am proud of you. You did the thing you knew you should do, even in the face of fear." Imagine, what will God say to you on that day? See, there's a quote I heard once, and it was said something like this, that 90% of people die only having used 5% of their gifts and talents. 5%! And I don't want that to be me. And because you're here with me in the Fierce Files, I know you don't want that to be you. So that's why I'm inviting you to join me for my free Find Your Fierce Challenge. That starts on October 22nd. You can learn more and register while I tell you about it. Go to findyourfiercechallenge.com. So over the course of 7 days together, you and me will spend time where I give you powerful insight and conversations designed to help you, one, get back in touch with the dreams that drive your deepest desires, and determine exactly how you can honor your gifts and talents and serve the world and make money while you do it. That's right. See, in the course of these 7 days, I want to give you everything you need to live in full activation of the Matthew effect that's inside of you. So let me tell you the 7th day, and again, you can read this on the website, findyourfiercechallenge.com. So day 1, what do you wish for? We're going to explore your deepest desires and dreams that leave clues to your calling. Day 2, what do you love? The thing that you've always loved to do. Guess what? You're about to do it, right? Day 3, what are you great at? What does the world give you a standing ovation for? Day 4 is what's your defining moment? We're going to explore the pivotal turns along your journey that point you towards your purpose, your assignment, your life's calling. Day 5, what do you need to let go of? So we've got to look at what's holding you back so we can propel you forward into that level up moment, right? Day 6, what's your assignment? Who are you created to teach and lead? In other words, who needs you, right? And then day 7, how will you leave your mark on this world? It's all about leaving a legacy. You are here to change and to be the change, right? So literally in the 7 days, it's literally a magic formula that so many successful women just like you, see, they spin their wheels seeking, but sadly never find it. So you get burnt out and give up on the possibility of creating a business and a life that you love. However, beginning on October 22nd, you will find exactly what you've been searching for. So again, this is my invitation to you to join me. Go to findyourfiercechallenge.com and register so we can take your Matthew effect and get it in full effect, right? So you have to stop waiting. You've got to stop waiting for something from outside to happen that will propel you over the top and look to the rich gifts and talents that are already in you to make it happen. So just to review the 5 lessons I got from the Matthew effect that you must understand fully and activate in your life to live as the highest and best version of who you were created to be. Those 5 things are: number 1, success happens when you take action. Number 2, you must live out your assignment. Number 3, start with what you have. Number 4, you have to invest at the level you want to see the return. And then number 5, you will be held accountable. So my question to you is, how do you take these 5 steps and apply? How do you apply them to you and where you are? What can you take from what I shared and apply it to the trajectory, not just of your career, but of your life? How can you apply it? See, once you discover and declare the answers to that, you'll be ready to unlock the true power that's already inside of you. And to that, I say, no more putting your gifts and talents on the shelf. No more expecting less than what's possible for you. No more playing small. No more living good enough. It's time for you to take those gifts and talents and multiply them so that you can live abundantly above all that you could ever ask or think. And so that you can make the impact you were born to make in this world. I look forward to serving you, those of you that went to findyourfiercechallenge.com and you're joining me. I look forward to serving you starting on Monday for some really powerful insight and training that is in alignment with our conversation for today about how the Matthew effect, what is it, how it pertains to you, how it speaks to your ability to level up, to do more, and to expand your territory. Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Fierce Files. Now, I want you to walk away from these episodes with value, so grab your pen and answer either one or all 3 of these questions. Number 1, what was your greatest takeaway? Number 2, what will you do differently as a result of what you heard? So you may have heard something you've already heard before, or you may have learned something new. Either way, don't take the insight that was shared with you for granted. So commit to doing one thing different because of what you heard. Number 3, what was confirmation for you? What did you hear that confirmed you're on the right path? See, I want you to take a moment and celebrate you. Too often in our journey, we focus on what we're not doing and we forget to celebrate what we are doing. So what was something that showed you that you're headed in the right direction? Now, I want you to share your answers. Share your answer to either number 1, what was your greatest takeaway? Number 2, what would you do different? Or number 3, what was confirmation for you? And share it in our Facebook community. So go to findyourfiercemovement.com and use the hashtag FierceFiles. Now, each experience we encourage, support, and celebrate as a community. It allows us to expand in possibility and wisdom, in encouragement and love. Now, we've invited you into our community to deepen our journey with being the answer someone needs and in being committed to your next level. So until the next time, be extraordinary, be unapologetic, be bodaciously you, go and be fierce.